Welcome to the What If It's Not Depression podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Achina Stein, and today we are going to talk about migraines. I have Dr. Amelia Scott Barrett, who is returning for a second episode. Last time was a couple years ago. We talked about migraines. And if you love this episode, please click the like button and subscribe to this channel. So Dr. B believes that you are more powerful than your headache pills. Migraine is the #1 cause of disability in women under 50, but new science and technology is allowing us to find and fix the hidden cause of headaches rather than simply masking the pain with headache pills. Dr. Barrett's work has been featured in publications like Women's World and Business Insider. She did a TED Talk in 2023 about the limitations of prescription medications and what we have learned about the hidden causes of headaches. Dr. Barrett envisions a world where people actually recover from headaches rather than just cover them up with a pill. You go, girl. That's my vision about depression too, and anxiety. But again, Dr. V is a neurologist who trained at Stanford and founded Migraine Relief Code, which offers online courses to teach headache sufferers how to use new tools like genetic testing and wearable health devices to help them relieve pain and get back to the lives they love. She is also a functional medicine practitioner and a yoga and meditation teacher. Welcome, Dr. V.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me here. It is so good to see you again, my friend.
Yeah, it's great to see you too. I'm so glad we've met up again and talking about migraines again. So, especially because you have some new things on the horizon that you're doing with your patients. So why don't we just jump right into it? I would love for you to just start. What inspired you to choose what you're doing right now?
It really all started when I was still in private practice as a neurologist in, the business that I built and I loved, doing work that I loved, taking care of headache patients. But I remember there was a moment, probably about 10 years ago now, when a patient came in. We had been through maybe a dozen different medications, and she was just not getting better. She was missing a day or two a week home in bed. She wasn't able to take care of her 4 kids. She felt bad about having to rely on her husband. She was worried about her job. And, she comes in, we talk about the options, we decide which medication we're going to try next. And I'm handing her the prescription. And she looked at me and she said, "Do you think this one is going to work?"
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yeah, I do. And I realized that I was lying. I didn't think that medications were going to fix this problem. I had already tried a dozen medications. It wasn't working. And I just became so aware that we need a larger toolbox for people who are in this situation. We need the tools of integrative medicine, functional medicine, all the other fascinating new areas that are growing up around mainstream medicine, that's where the answers were going to lie for her, in listening to that pain rather than suppressing it with a pill.
Right. Absolutely. I totally hear you because I'm in the same situation with a lot of patients who come to me because they are on this, what I call a medication merry-go-round, and they end up being on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 medications. And this polypharmacy, it can be really, really harmful at some point. And, when do you decide that, there's no benefits and there's lots of risks? But there's a lot of limitations with medications, as you're saying.
There really are. And, one of the things that happens with migraine patients in particular, headache patients also, not just migraine, is that you can't just pop a pill and power through forever, because with each migraine, the brain changes a little bit and not in good ways. I actually did a TEDx talk about this because I want more people to understand this process, which is called chronification in my field. And what it means is that over time, with repeated headaches, the brain changes physically chemically and not in good ways, the net effect of those changes is to make you more and more prone to headaches and to make you less responsive to your medications.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to make sure that people know you can't just pop a pill and power through forever, because with each headache, your brain is still changing. At some point, you have to take that deeper dive. At some point, you have to listen to those pain signals and figure out what your body is telling you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. And it's looking at the root causes of inflammation that's setting you up for all of that. That's so important. Yeah.
Mhm.
So tell us how you are approaching this differently than the average or conventional neurologist.
I think the most important thing that I see people needing right now is legit, evidence-based information. I feel like so many people with pain and headaches in particular, they're incredibly motivated. Like
Mhm.
they don't have any issues changing their life, eating something different, trying a supplement. They will try anything to get out of pain, to get their lives back, to get their days back, to be able to take their kids to soccer practice again. Like, I feel like motivation is not the problem. I think where people get lost is that they are just drowning in the fire hose of information on the internet. And
Mhm.
as you and I both know, there are plenty of super charismatic people who have big megaphones out there. But you know what they don't have? They don't have a degree. They
Mhm.
don't have experience. They don't have the knowledge base to be talking about health and what is actually going to work. So what I see happening for people is they just spin their wheels. They find somebody who says, stand on your head and sprinkle oil on your toes and your headaches will get better. I'm
Right.
just giving a ridiculous example, of course, but
Right.
you know what I mean? Like
Right.
they find something, they latch onto it, they throw their heart and soul into it, it doesn't work, and then they're frustrated.
Right.
And what I want to do is bring people reliable, effective information from the get-go, from day one,
Right.
so that when people are looking for that information, they are putting their heart and soul into something that has a fighting chance of working.
Right.
So I developed a quiz, which
Mhm.
people can find at theheadachequiz.com. It's a
Awesome.
quick 2-minute quiz. It gives me a sense of where you're at with your headaches, and it allows me to send you relevant information that is likely to be helpful for you in your particular circumstance. Because somebody having headaches, 1 or 2 days a month is a whole different situation than somebody who's having headaches every day, right?
Mhm.
They
Mhm.
need different resources. So that is the main way I am trying to solve that problem, so that people have a reliable place to go for evidence-based, scientifically solid information that will actually produce results. We have a ton of data, but I feel like it's hard for people to find, that it's not pharma based, they don't have the billions of dollars to, beyond the TV commercials, and to really let people know about this evidence-based information. So I am just trying to create a safe space where people know they can trust the information that they're getting.
That's really, really awesome. Can you give some examples of some of this information that people wouldn't typically know about or find on their own?
Absolutely. One of my favorite new advances is in the area of smart devices.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, I think this is so interesting. There are whole conferences full of various devices
Awesome.
that have health benefits. And to
Mhm.
me, it's absolutely fascinating to dive into the science, to try to understand what actually works, what doesn't, what makes sense. I mean,
Mhm.
we're not going to have randomized controlled trials about all of this stuff anytime soon, but what is based on scientifically sound principles.
Mhm.
And one of my favorite things for people with health conditions of all kinds is the sleep trackers that we have today.
Mhm.
You can find this in an Apple Watch, a Fitbit, a Garmin, an Oura Ring, many other devices as well. I don't want to leave anybody out, but you can get incredibly empowering information.
Mhm.
So let me tell you how I use this in my own life. So I had my genetic testing done, And I learned that my sleep genes are not great. My anxiety genes are not great. And both of these are things that contribute to my migraines for sure. Those are systems in my body that don't work great. If I can fix those systems, then I will have fewer headaches, right?
Mhm.
And again, I think this applies to many, many health conditions, not just migraine. I think it applies to anxiety and depression as well.
Absolutely. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I decided, okay, I'm going to try some melatonin. There's great data about melatonin, right? It's a
Mhm.
naturally occurring substance in our body. We know that our levels drop off as we move through life. I'm not
Right.
going to say get older. I'm just going to say move through life.
Right, right. Move through life is much better than saying get.
Yeah, it sounds better, right? Especially
Yeah.
since I'm there. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try some melatonin. I try for a while. I'm like, I don't, I don't know if I really notice anything. I don't know if I
Mhm.
should stick with this.
Right.
Do I really need this? Should I be spending my time and money and energy on this if I'm not feeling it in my body? But then what I did is I thought, well, why don't I just track my sleep? And, maybe something's happening to my sleep that I don't feel yet.
Right.
Maybe I'm super exhausted and my sleep circuits have not had a chance to rewire epigenetically
Right.
yet. Maybe I need to stick with this for longer. I just don't know.
Mhm.
So I started tracking my sleep with a couple of different devices. And what I'm most interested in is deep sleep. That's what matters most for people with headaches because that's where your brain is cleaning itself out.
Mhm.
Super interesting, whole nother rabbit hole we don't need to go down right now, but that is the most important stage. So I started tracking that. I was getting about 20 minutes of deep sleep with no sleep help at all, no supplements, no nothing, just trying my usual, like, oh, it's time to go to bed. Let's, do the nightly ritual and wake up. So I tracked some data there. I was getting about 20 minutes of deep sleep on average. And then I added the melatonin back in. I like an extended release melatonin because most people don't know this, but regular melatonin only lasts about an hour. And if you're waking up at 3 in the morning, the way so many people do, melatonin is gone. It's not supporting you. It's not helping your brain kind of rewire and get through that 3 a.m. wake up.
Mhm.
So I used an extended release melatonin, kind of adjusted the dose. And what I started seeing, even in the first, after probably a week of collecting data, I was getting twice as much deep sleep.
Mhm. Wow.
And that is a game changer. I mean, that is the direction that you want to go in your health. So I wasn't necessarily feeling fewer headaches, less brain fog, super amazing energy, or anything like that at that point. But I was like, okay, here's a clue. I am on the right track. My body is responding to this, even though I don't necessarily feel better yet. So I'm going to stick with it because doubling my deep sleep, going from 20 to 40 minutes, is huge.
Right.
That's huge. So,
So you didn't
um,
really actually even physically notice an improvement, from your own experience without the sleep tracker. It seemed the same to you, but the sleep tracker actually tracked it.
exactly. And I never would have known that if I hadn't been using a smart device.
Mm.
So I feel like this is, easily accessible technology. A lot of people already have it. They're studying Aura rings even for detecting things like sleep apnea. I mean, some of these devices are really good. It's good
Mhm.
technology.
True.
Um, and what happened over time is after maybe a couple of months, then I started noticing the benefit. And every time I made a change in how I handled my sleep, I would track it, see if it gave me an improvement.
Mhm.
And, now I'm at the point where I'm literally getting like an hour and 20, an hour and 30 minutes of deep sleep every night. And that's where like things went into hyperdrive. I'm like, whoa,
Mm.
like I never thought I would feel this sharp mentally, physically, emotionally resilient, energetic. I swear my IQ went up.
Yeah,
I
and
mean, there's
and
huge
you're saying
benefits to
that this
sleeping.
is
We
just
all know that.
right.
But I don't think I would have stuck with it if I hadn't seen those numbers change. So I think that's one of the most exciting areas of new technology that is really going to benefit people's health.
Right, right. That's really awesome because a lot of people do give up on um, supplements or medications if they don't find that they're improving in a couple days,
Yeah,
And so you
understandable.
Right. And so you were on that for how long before you really noticed a big difference in terms of your sleep, deep sleep on the app?
Months,
Months.
months. It
Wow.
has taken my body months to rewire. I did a couple of other things too, changed up my routine, made sure I was going to bed earlier. For me, alcohol is not supportive of sleep in any way.
Mhm.
So had to really change those habits, some hormone therapy. Like there were a lot of things I had to do.
Mhm.
But every time I made a change, when I would see that improvement, I'm like, okay, I'm on the right track. I tried a couple of other supplements. They didn't seem to be making a huge impact on my numbers, so I let those go. It took a long time, and I would say this healing process as a whole it's really on the order of 8-10 months to
Right.
really get this wired, so that I wake up every day just feeling like I'm 16 again. It's crazy, girl.
Yes, yes. So sleep is extremely important for so many reasons, and it does really change your quality of life, and really affects your brain. So I agree with you there. And it might people might present with different problems, but sleep is one of the most important factors for especially brain health, whether it's emotional or neurological, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So what other devices do you have up your sleeve?
Oh, I feel like my other favorite um, health variable to track and device is heart rate variability.
Hmm.
So heart rate variability just means how much your heartbeat varies from one beat to the next.
Hmm.
It may sound counterintuitive, but you do not want your heart to beat like a metronome. Like think of that feeling when you're super, super stressed and your heart is just pounding out of your chest.
Hmm.
Don't want that, right? You
Hmm.
want your heartbeat to kind of slow down when you're chilling on the couch. You want it to get faster when you run up the stairs. Like you want your heart rate to change. That's healthy. And
Hmm.
so higher levels of heart rate variability are healthy. And there is a device called HeartMath
Hmm.
that basically translates your heart rate variability into a number that they call coherence.
Hmm.
And it's got a couple of other factors involved too, having to do with the electricity in the heart and in the brain being in sync.
Hmm.
And it is essentially a device that gives you moment to moment feedback, almost like a biofeedback device, really,
Right.
about the state of your nervous system.
Mhm.
So listeners may be wondering, why does that matter? Okay.
Right.
So what happens with any chronic health condition is that your nervous system gets stuck. Like kids on a teeter-totter, should go up and down, stress, recover, stress, recover. It gets stuck in the up position. So you're like the kid at the top of the teeter-totter with her legs dangling and you can't get back down to the ground. That's where your nervous system gets stuck with chronic
Mhm.
pain and many other health conditions.
Yeah.
So this device just tells you, okay, when is the teeter-totter coming back down to the ground? When is your nervous system going into recovery mode or parasympathetic mode, is the technical term.
Mhm.
And that is a powerful piece of information to have. It's complicated, I know,
Mhm.
but just think of it as something that helps you figure out when you are doing something that puts your nervous system into recovery mode so that your body can heal.
Right, right. It gives you information and it helps you to become more aware of when you have higher heart rate variability. And this is higher heart rate variability, not higher heart rate, people. Just want to make sure everyone understands, we don't
Yes,
want to
thank
have a
you.
higher heart rate. We want to have a heart rate variability. And I think you did a great job, Dr. B, in describing what this device helps you to understand. So, because it is a difficult concept, people aren't aware of those things. And heart rate is great, great. Sorry, HRV. Following HRV is a great um, marker, I should say. Great marker to follow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I was thinking about in terms of health, in terms of devices, is the continuous glucose monitoring. That
Mm-hmm.
also help with anxiety and depression, and I'm assuming also migraines. Do you find that to be the case?
Yeah, I'm actually doing a summit coming up about blood sugar because a
Mhm.
lot of people have had the experience of when their blood sugar crashes, that can be a migraine trigger. So
Absolutely.
unfortunately, the response from mainstream medicine has been, well, just eat carbs every couple of hours, which is unfortunately just absolutely the wrong advice. But so many people out there are stuck in that thinking. Now,
Right.
the problem is that when you eat carbs, your body releases insulin, it almost always overshoots, and then a couple of hours later, you're crashing. So, the real solution is to combine your carbs with things that slow that blood sugar spike, whether that's fats, fiber. And
Mhm.
I have had such interesting experience with the students in my online courses with this. I have a gal who is kind of borderline diabetes, and that's partly why she started using the CGM.
Mhm.
But what she discovered is this actual phenomenon. So she was telling our group last week that it was very, very surprising to her. She went to this county fair over the weekend, which had like all these childhood favorites, and she was just loving, her
Cotton
funnel
candy.
cakes
Oh.
and having a blast. But she's like, what I found is that I felt awful a couple hours later, because that's exactly what happened. She was having all these, carbs with no fats and fibers and other nice things in there to slow down the
Mhm.
sugar spike. And then a couple hours later, she crashed, got a headache,
Mhm.
and then she was like, okay, so the next day I just changed it up. So I changed the order in which I was eating things. So I made sure that before, she like took like a protein and fiber bar with
Mhm.
her so that she had a little bit of something healthy. She ate that first. And
Mhm.
then she still had a few of her favorites. This is not like a don't eat your favorite food ever again kind of a deal,
Right.
but it's learning how to work with your body. So she did that first, then had her favorites. She didn't have that crash. She didn't get the headache.
Awesome. Wow.
So super empowering information that I think people can get from CGMs. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because that is something that happens in real time and people don't even know that it's happening. The only way you're going to know is to, sort of have an index of suspicion around it and to do, to notice that in relationship with food, the kinds of symptoms that you're having in relationship to food, and then to try to get that on paper, so to speak, black and white, use the
Hmm.
CGM. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's
Great.
really hard to untangle all of this without data. I mean, most people with headaches every day, they don't just have a cause of that. They've got a dozen causes of that.
Right.
And it's really hard to sort out. You fix one problem and then you don't feel better. So you feel like, oh, that's not the problem. Well, that actually was a problem, just not the
Right.
only problem. So, of course, you don't feel better yet. You know what I mean? So, getting that data so you can start untangling all the things that are going into creating those headaches, incredibly
Mhm.
valuable.
Yes, yes, awesome. So you mentioned earlier, that you have a biofeedback as a type of health device, and that you've taken it out of the office and put it in your house. Can you talk more about that?
HeartMath does that. So you can buy these devices for not very much money at all.
Okay.
Now, this device has actually been around for, gosh, upwards of 20 years.
Uh-huh.
There are over 500 different studies published with various health conditions showing the benefit of the HeartMath device, which is the one that translates your heart rate variability into coherence.
Hmm.
Now, the way I came in contact with this is through Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. He hosts week-long meditation retreats for people all over the world. They see these incredible, amazing health transformations. And so they have started studying the science behind why this is happening. So
Hmm.
I got super interested in this research. I am part of the Inner Health Coalition, which is a group of doctors all around the world who are studying the science of meditation.
Hmm.
So at his retreats, he literally has people walking around with EEG electrodes on their head.
That's cool.
They take stool samples, blood samples, genetic samples, just cheek swabs. They
Mhm.
have even looked at like breast milk from nursing women.
Mhm.
And I got to tell you, the results they see are absolutely mind blowing.
Wow.
Mind blowing. I'll just give you one example.
Mm-hmm.
They do a blood draw and look at about 3,000 different proteins in the body. All
Mm-hmm.
right. They do before and after the week-long meditation retreat. After the week of meditation, if they compare the blood versus people who have just been on vacation for a week, they're not doing the meditation, they're just hanging out at the pool, working, taking vacation, taking care of the kids, whatever. They compare that.
Mm-hmm.
About 2/3 of those proteins have changed in a positive direction in
Wow.
the meditators, and they don't really change in the people who are just on vacation. So there is something incredibly powerful that happens to us as a result of meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And HeartMath is a device that you can use to make sure you are in the state that
Mm-hmm.
is going to produce those changes.
Awesome.
Because I don't know about you, but like I tried to meditate for many years and I got nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought I can't clear my mind. It doesn't work for me. I'm not wired that way. I
Mm-hmm.
had all kinds of things, but and I think so many people get the meditation advice to just, clear your mind or watch your thoughts or whatever.
Right.
And that's not actually the technique that results in the state inside your body that results in the physical markers
To
of
change.
healing.
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that, sometimes people think, oh, being on vacation is just resting and relaxing and reading a book is equal to meditation. And it's not. So I'm so glad that you drove that point in. And it is a
Mhm.
matter of finding stepping stones to finally meditating. I would love to hear how you started to meditate. What were the stepping stones that you had to step on before you were actually meditating on a regular basis?
My personal journey was I went to a week-long Joe Dispenza
So that's what you needed to
meditation
do.
retreat. Yeah,
Right, right, right.
that is what made the difference. I think I had to learn how to meditate in a way that produced an immediate improvement in my life,
Mm,
as opposed to something that I'm doing because it's good for me.
right,
It's
right.
like saving money. It's like, okay, I'll do it, but it's not fun.
Yeah, but
Meditation
a
was in
lot of
that class in my head. It had to be something where I stood up feeling like a different human being than I was when I sat down.
right.
And that makes you go back again and again.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you said that because it is a change in mindset and it is accepting that on some level that this is going to be a game changer. It's just a matter of finding a way. And if that way is immersing yourself into a program like you did, and really seeing the results in other people as well, then and then in yourself, then you're going to keep doing it. But it does take some time. And I think it's important to just keep trying. Keep trying, everybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you used a word, chronification, and we did talk a little bit about chronic illness, which causes chronic stress on the body. And all of that has to be treated along with the illness. What are some things that you talk about in terms of chronic stress and migraines?
I, of course, love meditation and I teach that to my students.
Mhm.
But I also think that yoga is an incredibly underappreciated tool for people with chronic migraines. And
Mhm.
it could be that I'm biased by my own experience, which is that if my neck starts hurting on the right side, right here, it
Mhm.
will radiate forward into my right temple. And that can happen from, I don't know, stress, posture, whatever. It
Mhm.
seems like there are so many reasons it can happen.
Mhm. Right.
And if that goes on for a couple of days, sure enough, I will have an aura. I am seeing the little jagged flashing lights over
Mhm.
here, and then
Right.
I've got to deal with the migraine. And, it doesn't happen as much as it used to, of course, but there are still things that can bring it out. And so what I discovered in my 30s is that if I do yoga during those couple of days, I can take away that neck pain.
Mhm.
And then I don't get that migraine afterwards. So for me, that was a real eye opener because I was in my neurology residency at Stanford, very much in this mindset that like pills are the only answer. And
Mhm.
then, I'm like, actually, I think yoga really helps, you know.
Right, right,
And so it was a little outside the box, but
right.
so I actually, you know, I think the problem where a lot of people with migraines get stuck is that they'll go to a local studio and it's like hot and they're moving really fast and they're going upside down and they come out feeling horrible because
Mhm.
that's not what they needed. They didn't need a workout, they needed a work in. And
Right,
so I use yoga as a tool for gentle movement, more of that work in. It's kind of a mind body tool.
right.
And there are, of course, you know, hundreds of studies showing that yoga works not only for migraine and other kinds of headaches, but several other, you know, health conditions. So we know that the benefits are real and measurable. I think just accessing what actually is appropriate for people with migraine is the big problem. So I teach that to my students also.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I'm sure you also teach them about food, how food can trigger migraines, food sensitivities, and hormones, right, can trigger migraines. So it is
Yeah.
looking at a host of root causes, I'm sure, and finding what it is for that particular individual because it's different for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that that is something we will see more of in the future.
Mhm.
In this day and age, you know, checking a bunch of lab work is not a part of a standard neurology
Mhm.
evaluation when you go to see your doctor.
Mhm.
But we have learned so much from the tools of functional medicine
Mhm.
about what those root causes are. I think over time we will see that evolution. It's not quite here yet, but it should be
Mhm.
much more so. In fact, it's the first stage of my online course, the Migraine Relief Code online course. I call it the reveal stage. You have to figure out what's going on for you. It's
Right,
not cookie cutter.
right.
Um, you know, and so if you're going to make lifestyle changes, you need to make lifestyle changes based on what your body needs. You need to
Mhm.
take the supplements that your body needs. You need the nutrition that your body needs. So you really need to start off by getting the functional lab testing. I have the option of genetic testing as well, which I think is game changer. And you know, and you have to take it from there based on what you find. And I
Mhm.
talk a lot about this in a webinar that I made about root causes of headaches, which you can find at migraineclass.com. Kind
Mhm.
of dives into what we've discovered
Mhm.
to be those hidden causes of headaches. You know, you go to the doctor, the MRI is normal, they're like, everything's fine. And you're like, but I'm not fine. I have
Right,
pain
exactly.
in my head all the time. So
Yeah,
what have we discovered to be actually contributing in that situation? And it's a lot of what you were talking about, you know,
right,
could be nutrition, could be hormones, could be leaky gut, could be
right,
toxins. You know, there's so many possibilities there.
right, right, right. So I'm really glad that we really focused on some devices that could help to track some of those things and to show what are some of those variables that are not necessarily evident just from noticing your own habits. Yeah. So I'm so
Mhm.
glad we did that.
Yeah.
It's been great meeting with you and talking about migraines again. Is there anything else that you think we should talk about that we haven't touched upon that you think people should know right now?
Oh my gosh. You know, I think my main message would be just don't give up.
Mhm.
Migraine is the number one cause of disability in women under 50, according to the Global Burden of Disease report.
Mhm.
And I feel like so many people are who I talk to are just living in this place of, I tried everything, nothing works. I just have to live with this. And that is no longer true.
Right.
I really, really want people to hear that message. Please don't give up. Please keep trying. You know, you can start with my solutions at theheadachequiz.com. If that doesn't feel right to you, please do something, but don't give up.
Right. Right. Great. Great. So tell everyone where you're located, and we'll certainly have links for you in the show notes. But it's always good to just tell us everything about you, where people can find you verbally. That would be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I am at Amelia Scott Barrett MD on all platforms. That is my website, my Instagram, my LinkedIn, my Facebook. So easy to remember.
Great. And you're still hailing from Colorado, right?
Yes, I am. I am in Denver, but I do full-time online integrative medicine for people with headaches of all kinds.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. It was great.
Yeah, so good to see you again, my friend.
Yeah.